Before we dive into the story, please subscribe to our channel. That would help me a lot, and you are free to change your mind anytime later. Samantha Wilson grew up in a world of wealth and privilege. Her father, Richard Wilson, was the CEO of a multinational corporation, and her mother, Claire, was a socialite who spent her days organizing charity events and attending high society gatherings. From a young age, Samantha was groomed to be the perfect heir to the Wilson family legacy, attending the best schools and receiving the finest education money could buy. However, behind the facade of luxury, Samantha's childhood was far from idyllic. Her parents were emotionally distant, more focused on maintaining their social status and accumulating wealth than nurturing their only child. Samantha often felt like an accessory, paraded around at elite functions to showcase the family's success. As she grew older, Samantha's parents became increasingly controlling, dictating every aspect of her life, from the clothes she wore to the friends she kept. They had grand plans for her future, which included marrying into another wealthy family and taking over the family business. Enter Daniel Weston, the son of one of Richard's business partners. Handsome, arrogant, and from an equally affluent background, Daniel was the perfect match in her parents' eyes. Despite Samantha's reservations about his overbearing and pompous nature, her parents pressured her into accepting his proposal, dazzled by the prospect of merging their family empires. With her wedding to Daniel looming, Samantha felt trapped in a gilded cage, suffocated by the weight of her family's expectations and the life they had meticulously planned for her. She had always been a dutiful daughter, but as the big day approached, doubts and fears began to creep in. On the morning of her wedding day, Samantha found herself in a state of panic. The grand Napa Valley Vineyard estate was adorned with lavish decorations, and over 500 guests had arrived, many of them influential figures in San Francisco's high society. Samantha's designer wedding gown, which cost more than most people's annual salary, hung in her dressing room, a symbol of the opulence and excess that had defined her life. As the minutes ticked away, Samantha's anxiety grew, and she found herself unable to breathe. The weight of her family's expectations, the pressure to maintain appearances, and the fear of a loveless marriage to Daniel became too much to bear. In a moment of desperation, Samantha made a split-second decision that would change the course of her life forever. She grabbed her wedding gown and fled the estate, leaving behind a trail of confused guests and a furious Daniel. Samantha jumped into the waiting limousine, instructing the driver to drive as far away from the vineyard as possible. For hours, she sat in the back of the limo, still clad in her wedding dress, as the opulent scenery of Napa Valley gave way to the rugged beauty of the California countryside. Eventually, the limousine broke down in the small rural town of Willow Creek, stranding Samantha in an unfamiliar world far removed from the opulence she had known. Dazed and disoriented, she found herself wandering the streets of the quaint town, her designer gown now disheveled and covered in dust. It was then that Samantha encountered Marge, the warm-hearted owner of a local diner. Marge took one look at the lost bride and immediately took her under her wing, offering her a safe haven and a hot meal. At Marge's diner, Samantha was introduced to the town's tight-knit community of endearing eccentrics. There was Dusty, a philosophical handyman with a heart of gold, and Erica, a teenage gas station attendant with big dreams and an infectious enthusiasm for life. As Samantha listened to the banter and laughter that filled the diner, she felt a sense of peace she had never experienced before. These people, with their simple lives and genuine warmth, were a stark contrast to the cold, materialistic world she had left behind. Meanwhile, back in San Francisco, chaos erupted as news of Samantha's disappearance spread. The furious Daniel, his ego bruised and his reputation at stake, demanded that Samantha's family and the authorities launch a desperate search to find his runaway bride. Richard and Claire Wilson, more concerned with salvaging their social standing than their daughter's well-being, spared no expense in their efforts to track Samantha down. They hired Connor, a shady private investigator with a reputation for using unscrupulous methods, with a single directive: find Samantha at all costs and bring her back, no matter what it took. As the search unfolded, Samantha remained blissfully unaware of the turmoil she had left behind, content to immerse herself in the simple pleasures of small-town life in Willow Creek. For the first time in her life, she felt a sense of freedom and the ability to breathe without the weight of her family's expectations crushing her. Little did she know that her newfound sanctuary was about to be shattered, and she would soon be forced to confront the demons of her past and make a life-altering decision that would shape her future forever. In the idyllic town of Willow Creek, Samantha found herself enveloped in a world she had never experienced before. The warm embrace of Marge and the tight-knit community of locals provided her with a sense of belonging she had been yearning for her entire life. Marge, with her motherly nature and infectious kindness, took Samantha under her wing, offering her a job at the diner and a room above the establishment. Samantha was hesitant at first, having never worked a day in her life, but Marge's gentle encouragement and the welcoming atmosphere of the diner soon put her at ease. As the days passed, Samantha found herself falling into a comfortable routine, serving customers and soaking in the lively banter and camaraderie that filled the diner. It was a stark contrast to the stifling silence and forced politeness of her former life, where conversations were merely a means of maintaining appearances. Among the colorful cast of characters that frequented the diner was Dusty, a rugged handyman with a philosophical outlook on life. Despite his rough exterior, Dusty possessed a gentle soul and a genuine appreciation for the simple pleasures that Willow Creek had to offer. Initially, Samantha was drawn to Dusty's easygoing nature and the way he seemed to navigate life with a sense of purpose and contentment that she had never known. As they spent more time together, a deep connection began to form between them, built on mutual understanding and a shared desire to break free from the constraints of societal expectations. Dusty introduced Samantha to the beauty of the great outdoors, taking her on hikes through the lush forests and rolling hills that surrounded Willow Creek. He taught her to appreciate the simple joys of nature, the sound of a babbling brook, and the warmth of the sun on her face, pleasures she had never taken the time to embrace amid the hustle and bustle of her privileged upbringing. With each passing day, Samantha felt herself shedding the layers of her former life, the weight of her family's expectations, and the pressure to conform to societal norms. In Willow Creek, she found the freedom to be herself, to explore her passions, and to discover her true purpose. Inspired by the town's warmth and generosity, Samantha began volunteering at the local pet shelter, a ramshackle operation that struggled to care for the stray animals that found their way there. She poured her heart into caring for the abandoned dogs and cats, finding solace in their unconditional love and the simple joy they brought to her life. Samantha also started tutoring children at the town's elementary school, sharing her knowledge and passion for learning with the wide-eyed youngsters who hung on her every word. It was in these moments that she truly felt alive, her heart swelling with a sense of purpose that had been missing from her previous existence. As her connection with Dusty deepened, a romantic spark began to ignite between them. Samantha found herself drawn to his rugged charm, his unwavering authenticity, and the way he embraced life with a sense of wonder and appreciation that she had never known. Dusty, in turn, was captivated by Samantha's newfound zest for life and her willingness to break free from the shackles of her past. He saw in her a kindred spirit, someone who was finally discovering the true meaning of happiness and self-fulfillment. Their budding romance blossomed in the most unexpected of ways, fueled by shared laughter, long conversations under the stars, and a deep connection that transcended the superficial trappings of wealth and status. However, this idyllic respite was not meant to last, as the demons of Samantha's past were closing in, threatening to shatter the sanctuary she had found in Willow Creek. Connor, the shady private investigator hired by Samantha's family, had been relentlessly tracking her every move, employing underhanded tactics, and exploiting his vast network of informants. It was only a matter of time before he zeroed in on Willow Creek, his sights set on dragging Samantha back to her former life, no matter the cost. As the weeks passed, rumors began to circulate in the town about a mysterious stranger lurking in the shadows, asking questions and making inquiries about the sudden appearance of a young woman in a wedding dress. The once peaceful streets of Willow Creek were now tinged with a sense of unease, as the townspeople grew wary of the outsider in their midst. It was Erica, the precocious teenage gas station attendant, who first spotted Connor prowling around the outskirts of town. With her keen eye for detail and unwavering curiosity, she couldn't help but notice the man's furtive glances and the way he seemed to be casing the area. Erica's warning set off a chain of events that would forever alter the course of Samantha's life. Dusty, protective of the woman he had come to love, rallied the townspeople, urging them to be vigilant and to watch out for any signs of trouble. The once idyllic streets of Willow Creek became a battleground, with a tight-knit community banding together to protect one of their own. Samantha, overwhelmed by the outpouring of support, found herself torn between the life she had come to cherish and the demons of her past that continued to haunt her. In a fateful showdown, Connor finally made his move, attempting to forcibly apprehend Samantha and drag her back to her family. But he had underestimated the resolve of the Willow Creek community, who rallied around Samantha with a fierceness that rivaled any army. In the midst of the chaos, a shocking revelation came to light. Connor had been hired not by Daniel, as Samantha had assumed, but by her own manipulative father, Richard Wilson. Blinded by his desire for control and the preservation of the family legacy, Richard had resorted to desperate measures to bring his wayward daughter back into the fold. The betrayal cut deep, and Samantha felt the weight of her past crashing down upon her once more. But this time, she was not alone. Dusty, Marge, Erica, and the entire town stood by her side, their unwavering support and loyalty a stark contrast to the cold, calculated machinations of her family. As the dust settled and Connor retreated, his mission a failure, Samantha found herself at a crossroads. She could return to the gilded cage of her former life, bowing to the demands of her family and surrendering her newfound freedom, or she could embrace the path she had discovered in Willow Creek, risking everything for the chance to forge her own destiny. It was then that Daniel, the man she had once been set to marry, arrived in Willow Creek like a specter from her past. His arrogance and entitlement were palpable, as he issued a cruel ultimatum: return to San Francisco as his obedient wife, or be disowned and left penniless, cut off from the family fortune forever. Faced with this life-defining decision, Samantha felt the weight of her past and the allure of her former life pressing down upon her. But as she looked around at the faces of those who had become her true family, Dusty, Marge, Erica, and the resilient residents of Willow Creek, she knew in her heart that the path forward lay not in the trappings of wealth and status, but in the simple joys and genuine connections she had discovered in this small town. With a newfound strength and resolve, Samantha turned her back on the gilded cage of her past and embraced the extraordinary life that awaited her in Willow Creek. As Daniel stood before her, his arrogant demeanor a stark reminder of the life she had fled, Samantha felt a sense of clarity wash over her. She had spent her entire existence trapped in a world of wealth and privilege, suffocated by the expectations of her family and society. But in Willow Creek, she had discovered a freedom she never knew existed, a freedom to be her true self, to forge her own path, and to find genuine happiness in the simple pleasures of life. Looking into Daniel's cold, calculating eyes, Samantha knew that returning to San Francisco as his obedient wife would be a death sentence for the woman she had become. She would be forced to surrender her newfound independence, her sense of purpose, and the deep connections she had forged with the people of Willow Creek, the true family she had always longed for. With a steadiness in her voice that belied the turmoil within, Samantha uttered the words that would forever sever her ties to her toxic family legacy. "I'm not going back, Daniel. This is my life now, and I'm choosing to live it on my own terms." Daniel's face contorted with rage, his fragile ego bruised by Samantha's defiance. He spewed vile threats and insults, vowing that she would be left penniless and ostracized from the privileged world she had once inhabited. But Samantha stood tall, unflinching in the face of his vitriol. She had already tasted true freedom, and no amount of wealth or societal status could tempt her back into the gilded cage she had so narrowly escaped. As Daniel stormed off, his threats echoing in the distance, Samantha found herself enveloped in the warm embrace of her newfound family: Dusty, Marge, Erica, and the entire community of Willow Creek. Their unwavering support and love were a balm to her wounded soul, reminding her that she had made the right choice. In the days and weeks that followed, Samantha immersed herself fully in the life she had chosen. With Dusty by her side, she poured her heart and soul into Marge's diner, transforming it into a vibrant hub for the community. Marge, sensing that her time as the diner's proprietor was nearing its end, offered to sell the establishment to Samantha, using the funds from her personal wedding account, a symbol of her commitment to leaving her old life behind. Samantha eagerly accepted, and with Dusty's help, they set about breathing new life into the diner. They renovated the space, adding cozy nooks and a warm, inviting ambience that reflected the spirit of Willow Creek. Samantha's culinary skills, honed through years of private tutelage, came to the fore, and she crafted a menu that celebrated the flavors of the region, using fresh, locally sourced ingredients. The grand reopening of the diner, now christened Samantha's Place, was a momentous occasion for the town. Residents from near and far flocked to the establishment, eager to support one of their own and to savor the delicious fare that Samantha had meticulously prepared. But the joy of the occasion was short-lived, as Daniel, consumed by his bitterness and desperate to regain control, made one final, spiteful attempt to undermine Samantha's newfound happiness. On the night of the reopening, just as the festivities were in full swing, a series of mysterious mishaps began to unfold. The diner's electricity inexplicably went out, plunging the space into darkness. The kitchen's ovens and refrigerators malfunctioned, threatening to spoil the carefully prepared dishes. And a suspicious fire broke out in the alleyway behind the diner, sending smoke billowing into the dining area. Chaos ensued as Samantha and her friends scrambled to contain the disasters, but the sabotage was unmistakable. Amidst the confusion, a familiar figure emerged from the shadows: Connor, the shady private investigator hired by Samantha's father, a sly grin plastered on his face. It became clear that Daniel, unable to accept Samantha's rejection, had enlisted Connor's services once again in a desperate attempt to destroy her newfound happiness and force her to crawl back to him. But this time, Daniel had gravely underestimated the resilience and unity of the Willow Creek community. As the smoke cleared and the extent of the sabotage became apparent, the townspeople rallied around Samantha with an unwavering determination. Dusty, ever the resourceful handyman, sprang into action, leading a team of volunteers to repair the electrical damage and restore power to the diner. Erica, with her boundless energy and ingenuity, helped organize a makeshift outdoor kitchen, ensuring that the delectable dishes Samantha had prepared could still be served. And Marge, the matriarch of the community, stood tall and defiant, her warm embrace and comforting words a beacon of strength for Samantha in the midst of the chaos. As the night wore on, the diner's reopening transformed into a celebration of resilience, community, and the unbreakable bonds that had been forged in the face of adversity. Neighbors, friends, and even strangers who had heard of the sabotage flocked to the diner, offering their support and patronage as a unified show of defiance against Daniel's petty attempts to tear Samantha down. In that moment, Samantha realized that she had found something far more precious than wealth or status: a true sense of belonging, a family that loved and supported her unconditionally, and a purpose that filled her heart with joy and fulfillment. As the night drew to a close, Samantha stood amidst the laughter and camaraderie that filled her diner, her eyes shining with tears of gratitude. She had come full circle, shedding the shackles of her privileged upbringing to embrace a life of authenticity, love, and genuine happiness. Dusty, her steadfast partner and the man who had shown her the path to freedom, took her hand in his calloused fingers intertwining with hers in a tender embrace. In that moment, Samantha knew that she had found her home, her sanctuary, and the extraordinary life she had always dreamed of: a life lived on her own terms, surrounded by the warmth and love of those who truly mattered. As the sun rose over Willow Creek the next morning, Samantha stood in the doorway of her diner, taking in the crisp mountain air and the beauty of the world that had once been hidden from her. A sense of peace and contentment washed over her, and she smiled, knowing that she had finally broken free from the gilded cage of her past. In the distance, the faint sound of a car engine faded into the distance, a poetic symbol of Daniel's departure from her life. He had tried his best to break her, to force her back into the mold he had envisioned for her, but in the end, his efforts had been futile. Samantha was no longer the meek, obedient heiress he had once known. She was a woman reborn, empowered by the extraordinary life she had chosen for herself in the most ordinary of places. And as she stepped back into her diner, surrounded by the laughter and warmth of her newfound family, she knew that she had never been more free. This is where our story comes to an end. Share your thoughts in the comment section. Thanks for your precious time. If you enjoyed the story, make sure you subscribe to this channel. That would help me a lot. Click on a video you see on the screen, and I will see you there.